What is going on, guys? Bert Devoden here, and we are back with another video going over some of the fundamental basics of Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire. So this is a game that I bought years ago on a Steam sale based on reviews. I think I tried it for maybe like 5 minutes once or twice over the years and just really wasn't in the mood for kind of a top-down action RPG. And so it sat in my backlog for quite some time until a few weeks ago when I fired it up, and I think I've dumped about 150 hours into the game already. I just created my 5th character last night. And while this is in the running for being my favorite RPG of all time, I have to say that there is one element to the game that brings it down so far just underneath Dragon Age Origins for me. And it's a little spoiler-ish, but not really. It's more kind of a preemptive warning for people who get into the game, knowing that this is a Kickstarter game, even though it is from Obsidian. It is very deep into mechanics and lore and all of that. But the one element to it, and I feel like this isn't talked about enough because a lot of people, I think, it can leave a bad taste in their mouth. The main storyline of the game is only like 4 or maybe 5 missions long. So that's it. It's really, really short. But what you need to do to get there can take you well over 100 hours. And for me, this was such an amazing experience, and harken back to those RPG days of like old BioWare before they, sold out literally and metaphorically. And it really speaks to the depth of the story, the characters, the mechanics, and all of it. It is unbelievably such a beautiful game. I'm talking about Pillars of Eternity 2 now. And it is one that I do believe that is overlooked because of some of the elements to the game, like it being kind of a top-down action RPG, in one where you can't actually rotate the camera. So unlike games like Diablo or Grim Dawn or, oh crap, what's that other Diablo-like one? Something like Torchlight, right? You can't rotate the map. It's a static map. But Obsidian does such an amazing job with the world that they not only make it work, they honestly make it preferable, because I started playing Grim Dawn after like, I think 130 hours into this game, because it's like, you know what, I probably want something new. And then as I'm playing Grim Dawn and like rotating the camera and like I'm like, no, actually I don't. I actually prefer the more kind of static top down. Now, this is a personal preference, but I think it really works for the game. And I think it speaks to the quality of Obsidian developers in being able to pull that off. It just seems that nowadays, I think this was released in like 2017 or 2018, that to make a top-down only static video game feel so amazing comparatively to like games like Dragon Age Inquisition or The Witcher or Skyrim, things like that. That's a very tall order, and they surpass what I had for any sort of expectation in the game. Now, with all that being said, there are some elements that I want to walk you guys through that I do find, as an older gamer, a little bit annoying and a little bit unnecessary, but that is why we have mods, right? So whether, regardless of whatever engine you use, I like Vortex just because it's clean, it's simple, it does everything for me. If I'm screwing anything up, it'll tell me exactly how to fix it typically. So I stick with that. You, whatever you want to do. But we're going to go through first some of the mods that I think really help the game shine even more. And I do actually suggest playing the game initially with a lot of these mods and not going into it in vanilla like you would. Like, I wouldn't tell you to play vanilla Skyrim in 2022 or 2023. And so I'm not going to tell you to play Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire, vanilla going into 2023. So anyway, we're going to start our way back. There's not a ton of them, and some of these you may want to skip, but the first one is a community patch. This is obviously done by the community, who has basically fixed a lot of the bugs that Obsidian probably didn't have the time to. Again, this is a Kickstarter game that, as was the first one, apparently, I was unaware of that. And so what they did with such a comparatively small budget is pretty amazing. So, but anyway, community stepped up. They're like, hey, you know, we're going to do this. Enhanced user interface. This is another one that gives you a little bit greater detail on all of the nuance that the game has. And this goes into the mechanics because there are defenses. They have their own terminology that isn't, if you're not like an old school D&D player, if you're not like quite literally over middle-aged like I am, and you never played a tabletop Dungeons and Dragons game or anything comparable, a lot of these things will seem very confusing. And even because they use their own terminology, and even when you look at how people explain it, it can be a little confusing off the top of your head. So having that is a really good one. The next one, and this is something that really sticks in my craw, this is a hill that I will die on, is no friendly fire. I hated it in Dragon Age, even though, again, that's probably my favorite role-playing game of all time. The friendly fire element, like, I get it. It's a staple. It harkens back to trying to put some realism into the old school D&D, but it fucking sucks. I hate it because when you're playing with AI that you can't perfectly script for in the game, and this game, like Dragon Age Origins, allows you to actually script the AI, but you have to really want to dig into it, and it could take hours for just one of 4 or 5 characters that you have. So the way you set it up, if you're going to have anyone be any sort of magic user with AoE, which I always love, I am just a straight up old school wizard AoE damage type of player, that friendly fire is not something I can deal with. The second thing, another thing, and this is something that Dragon Age Inquisition goes into, and this is a mod that I have for pretty much all games, is everyone 2 cents. And what this is that I absolutely love back and forth random chatter and character and relationship development between, you know, your companions in game. Even the mod that allows this in Dragon Age Inquisition, where, you know, you get the Iron Bull and Dorian to flirt more, it's still not enough for me. Like, it's like a random trigger, you know. I think vanilla, it's every 15 minutes. Dialogue has the ability to trigger, and the mod brings it down to like 5 minutes. That's still not enough for me. This mod is closer to what I would like to see in most games, is the option to basically, when I run a party, I run with 5 people, me being one of them, so I have 4 companions. Whenever we get into a new situation or meet a character or presented with, you know, an opportunity, the relationship status of your companions to you is directly hinged on the choices you make. So understanding where people kind of sit on that spectrum draws me more into the story, and everyone 2 cents allows that to happen. So every time you come to kind of a pivotal or a monolithic moment, everybody, not at once, but everybody gives their like 2 cents. It could be 1 sentence. It could be a couple paragraphs, you know, depending on the character and depending on where you are and what that relationship between that companion and that storyline is. And I absolutely love that. Love it, love it, love it. So more of it. Bonus ability points on level up. This is just my whole, like, God complex coming into view. Like, I hate being restricted well, I like being restricted initially with certain characters, but with this, when you pick a character, like I'm going to be a wizard and only a wizard, I don't want to be restricted in what I can be as a wizard. I want to have options to every spell in the fucking game. And this will almost give you that. And there's like some other, this is more of kind of a lore friendly level up way of doing it, as opposed to using a console command and just giving yourself every ability in the game. So this is a little bit more friendly. Spoils of Cadnua. This is a small little mod where one of the decisions you make right away in the game, and I don't want to spoil this, but basically, if you make what people would argue is the morally sound choice, you lose out on some of the spoils. And this mod just basically says, you know what? It's okay. You can make the moral choice and you can get the spoils of that. The other one is unlock pets. So I didn't know this going into this, but in Pillars of Eternity 2, a few people, or there's a way to have a pet, and each pet is not only unique in its character, but it's unique into, it gives you a certain bonus, and that bonus can apply to the entire party. And so if you have 5 characters with this mod, you can have 5 pets that add these unique abilities or buffs to the entire party, and you can kind of, mix and match and whatnot. And I don't know, I saw some weird posts where people are like, well, in Pillars of Eternity 1, pets didn't do anything, they were just cosmetic. And I'm like, fuck that shit. Like, having a pet have some sort of utility in the game is exactly what I am looking for. And if I can have that on every character, I don't know why it would be restricted. I'm like, absolutely. And so far, none of these make you feel overpowered, by the way, because Pillars of Eternity 2 has the option for you to have all your enemies scale to your leveling, which I cannot suggest enough. That is an option that I believe should be in every game, which then leads to the next one, is get on my level. So when we're talking about when you get a new companion, the companion themselves may be level 2 or 3, but let's say you're level 20. And so the vanilla aspect of the game basically makes you level that character up from that level, as opposed to getting that character and having them at level 23, the same level as you, and you being able to still level them. So when you get them, you'll see that little plus sign by their name. And let's say, the vanilla game says they start at level 5, you can still level them from 5 to 23 in the exact way you want to, which I think is really, really important. So all of these are still in my game. Let's go to the second one here. Level cap to 33. This is, again, something that leans into the restrictiveness of creating a character, which again, old school D&D, I understand, but today I don't really think I think it's outdated. So raising the level cap from, I believe the vanilla level cap is like 20, and the new level cap is 33. And if you use Wiimod like I do, or if you use console commands, you can go above that. But that's basically just bringing the level cap up. And I think someone actually did it, like, even if you have all your characters and you have everybody scale, you're not going to make it to level 33 playing the full game the first time. So don't really worry about it. Backer items and cosmetic pets. So these are obviously options that people who were initial backers received for donating to the Kickstarter fund. And these are now available to everyone via this mod. So I liked it because, get to see what they got, which is kind of cool, because I'm telling you, just based on that, if they have another Kickstarter for Pillars of Eternity 3, I am donating. Grimoire Learning. So this is a really cool, very interesting aspect to basically playing a wizard or a wizard-like character that can use grimoire. So wizards, again, harkening back to the old D&D, use a grimoire. Now, if you are a wizard character, you have access to so many abilities already as a wizard, but as you get different grimoires throughout the game, they open it up even more. So you could be level 25 and be completely leveled out on all of your abilities. You find a new tome and it's got abilities on every level that you haven't seen before. You grab that sucker, you respec your character for like, I don't know, 3,000 gold, and then you've got a host of new abilities, right? And what this mod does is it allows you to actually keep the abilities that you've learned from one grimoire to another. Now, I don't even know if I still have this downloaded. That element of playing around with different grimoires and like tomes and stuff like that, that's actually fun. So this one's kind of a take it or leave it. I thought I would need it initially, but I don't think that you do. Well-supplied merchants. This is something for everybody. I hate it when a merchant you go to has like 3 things and it never changes. Their stock is always just kind of garbage and never gives you the items that you really need at that time. So well-supplied merchants is one that I really like. Trinkets, I had to learn about this one. Apparently, trinkets were only used by certain characters. This allows every character to use trinkets within their class structure. So, which is again really really nice and still kind of holds true or holds the lore aspect of it. More spell castings per encounter. So one of the things that they do is that with all abilities, they have an inherent amount of times that you can cast them in a single fight or per rest. And resting is very similar to the way it was in Dragon Age Origins, where if you had a wound from battle, you had to use, I think in Dragon Age, you had to use a specific salve to get rid of it. Otherwise, you had these like constant negative buffs to you. And the same thing is true here. It works a little bit differently where you actually rest and it shows like this quick little bonfire scene to denote that you are resting overnight, and then you can eat food or drink to like give you some temporary buffs. More spell castings per encounter basically raises that. So I think like the final level, like what is it, like level 9 abilities, you only have 1 use of all level 9 abilities in a fight. And I was like, I think this brings it up to 3, but even that is too restrictive for me. So if you really want to stick to the basics, go ahead and download this mod. But honestly, I use console commands, and at this point, I just toggle off the spell limit. So I can cast as many spells as I want over and over, because sometimes you just want to throw 50 fireballs at someone. More custom AI conditions. Again, I think I still have this downloaded. This is a really good one if you are super into the math in sculpting how the AI works. And I'm going to go into that a little bit later in this video. But after trying this, it takes so much testing and the learning curve is so steep when it comes to trying to construct the AI in exactly the way you want it. It's not really worth it. And I'll actually kind of show you how it can actually work a lot better and just like 2 clicks and you'll be fine. Enhanced companion portraits, this just sharpens that up. Whispers of the Endless Paths damage buff. So this is a very special item that you get, and it basically, apparently in vanilla, it doesn't really hold up end game. This mod changes that. Per encounter abilities and items. So a lot of abilities and items, as I said, are per rest and not per fight. And so some abilities, you are going through a dungeon and you pop a level 9 off and now you can't, right? It's gone. So for every fight until you rest, you're not going to get the ability to do that again. That is a little bit too limiting for me. So, and some of like the coolest items you get are per rest. And I tried playing without this, and what I ended up doing is basically going to the campfire rest stream after every single fight, and I'm like, that is annoying. So again, I just toggled off the spell limit via console commands. Backgrounds unlocked. So basically what this mod does is it takes away some of that restrictive nature about what races can have what background, what class structure can have, what bonus buffs to it when you're setting up your character, which is really nice. Trinkets, this is a mod to add a bunch of new and unique trinkets at the very beginning of the game where you can find them, and then you can give them to, again, combined with trinkets for everybody, you can give them to pretty much anybody in your party. The pantry adds a ability to basically, the pantry is a merchant in the game, and this allows you to basically unlock the best items, to be able to, instead of grinding for them, which is something, again, like, I'm not really into the grinding aspect for specific items anymore. In video games, I'm like, just fucking give it to me right away. So the pantry adds all enchanting ingredients. Oh, no, this is a different one. Sorry. The pantry adds all enchanting ingredients to the fishmonger in Port Marge, which is right in the beginning. So this basically, and I've done this so many times at this point. So basically what happens is, like, in the very first area, you get to the point where you find a merchant, and she sells all the enchanting ingredients that you basically need to upgrade your weapons and armor. And I'm just like, give it to me right away. And I'll tell you, if you're using the level scaling, you can get all the best weapons and armor in the game, level them up to legendary and all the other unique properties, and you will still get bent over at times. So it's not as detrimental as, like, getting the best spells in Skyrim and just walking through the game up to the last boss. The funneling skill items, I don't remember what this is. The funneling, the funning, I want to say, I don't know what this is. This is a series of mods, and I think I only downloaded this one. He changes a lot of things, so... Oh, that's right. He adds 19 magic items that give bonuses which scale with character skills, athletics, alchemy, etc., that can be bought at, I think it's Ilfer's Raiments in Nekataka, which is like your main hub. And there is a small chance, less than 1%, to find a few of them in shipwrecks, burial sites, and similar searchable locations around the world map. So these are unique items that scale with you, that you can keep, and they're very lore friendly in that they have both plus and minuses, which is, I always like that aspect. Not always, but sometimes. Informative proficiency descriptions. This is another one where I talk about, it just gives you a little bit more detail into the world that the game doesn't give you initially. So when you're looking at an enemy boss, there's a little pop-up window that shows, like, you know, what they're strong to, what they're weak against. But sometimes when you're coming into a game like this that's new with its own vernacular, it's hard to know what that means. And this mod basically fixes that. Where are we here? Better figurines. So this is another one where figurines are a unique items that you find throughout the world. You can equip them to a character's quick slot, and you can use them in game. And they can be a figurine like that summons a dragon, or that gives you a shield, or gives you a certain constitution buff, or an attack or accuracy buff, something like that. And the figurines were specific that they could only be used once per rest. So you find that, like many other, like, breakable items, that you end up saving them and never really using them. And this mod basically allows you to use figurines once per encounter, again, which I really like. I like that to be complemented with the spells, the unlimited spells, because then I don't have to bank on, you know, having 4 different figurines that I have to use for every single character. I basically have one figurine for each character, and that is more than enough. lower soulbound requirements. Now, this is a little spoilerish, but not really. So there are items that are very special in the game that you can bind to a character's soul, which means that in order to level up that item, you have to keep it on that character. That character has to use it, and it has to do specific things in the game to level it. Now, I didn't have this downloaded, or I didn't have it on initially, and the requirements were honestly, they were a little ridiculous for all the stuff, and your ADD kicks in. And you're like, ooh, what's this? Ooh, what's over here? Oh, that's a new dungeon, and you're not really focused on meeting these requirements. So that's why I downloaded this, and I'm so much happier with it. Nekataka Shipyard Inventory Restoration. Now, this may sound like kind of an obscure one, but apparently when the game released, you could get some of the best items that you need for your pirate ship. And yes, if you're still not sold on playing this game, you get your own pirate ship with a crew that can level up and can die, and you get into pirate ship battles. And this one, what it basically does is apparently the best things in the game could be bought. And then they were like, wow, we're going to change this in one of the updates. And people were like, dude, what are you doing this for? So they made a mod and just allowed you to buy the best things. They're expensive, so it's not like they're cheap or anything. But yeah, needful things. This is the one I think I was alluding to earlier. Yeah. So this mod basically allows you to buy via, I want to say like 8 different merchants. So throughout the world, you're going to go to different merchants, and all the legendary and unique and soulbound items that you would have to grind for in the game, which could take you well over a couple hundred hours to find all of them and get them. They are now available at merchants. And this is just something like, and again, not cheap, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I wasn't really sure how this game was going to be. I wasn't sure how much I was going to like it. And honestly, getting the best items that you can get at the very beginning of the game, to me, is a test of how good a game is. Because if I power level my character and get all the weapons and get all of the needless grinding out of the way, I can play the game and see how good the game, not the grind, but the game actually is. And this is so true of Pillars of Eternity 2. And this is why I hold it in such high esteem, because I can get all of the best things in the game right away. And the game is still challenging. It's still fun as fuck. And getting these items at the very beginning of the game takes nothing away from that, which is really hard to say for a lot of other games. This is another one, and I'm going to talk about this once we get to the video, is that the UI slow fast mode tags remover. So this will make more sense once we get to that part of the video where you basically say, you can speed up the world actions completely, not just your characters, but the entire world as you go from point A to point B and you want to get there a little bit faster. It allows you to kind of basically press fast forward. And there's always this fast mode activated up in the vanilla game, and it bothered the crap out of me. It's very distracting. It's like a neon light that kind of pulses, and you're like, why would you leave that? It turns off automatically in combat. So I'm like, why would you? I just didn't understand the reasoning for leaving it in. And I think after a few hours of playing it, I was like, there's got to be a mod to remove that. And sure enough, there is. All right, getting towards the end there. Background, 20 skill points. I actually would not suggest that you use this in your first or second playthrough. This aspect of the game, having the background talent points, is pretty integral to, wow, there's so much of the game that relies on this. I wouldn't actually rely on this on your first time going through. But after, like in your, maybe your third character, I'm like, yeah, you might want to download this. So basically what I talked about before, like when it comes to like background skills, when creating your character, you can kind of pick and choose, and there's, you know, varying degrees of it, but this basically brings them all up to 20, and then you can level them up. These, again, you level these up naturally throughout the game, so you don't have to worry about being stuck with a certain number, but this makes it a lot easier to just bringing them all up to 20, which I think the highest check mark that I've seen is like 18 in the game. So once you're at 20, you don't really need to level them up. That's why I say it's not really a necessary mod, but it's one that I like. Godlike portraits, there's this is just kind of a cool one that gives you a few extra. Most of my characters are of the godlike race. They're just really fucking cool. They can't use helmets. That's kind of a drawback, but they're character specialties, they're like innate abilities that come with the godlike races are worth it in my opinion. And they just look so fucking cool. But these are just like some cool looking extra. That's it. That's all it does. Right? Nothing major. It's not game breaking. And then animal companions balance mod. This makes animal companions for the ranger a little bit better. Apparently they were nerfed pretty heavily, and so this kind of balances those out. Uncharged figure. What is this one? Hold on, I forgot about this one. Oh, this removes the so there. I forgot there are trinkets and there are figurines, and there's better figurines, which I think recharges. Oh, these might actually conflict. That might be why I have an issue. So you know what? Don't use uncharged figurines. I'm going to take that back right now. It might be messing with another one that I have downloaded that I just realized. Full assist. I don't. Oh, that's right. So in the game, there, as I talk about the background buffs, you know, the ones up to 20 that help you and give you navigate different options throughout the game. It could be physical things, it could be story related, it could be dialogue related, it could be task related. All of these things kind of come to bear, and the idea is that each character has a different specialty that they level up. Like there's so many that you can't really specialize in all of them in the vanilla game if you level up only to 20, and even if you level up to 33, you're not going to get a, you know, a full blown out spectrum of maxed out stats. And so what this does is it does make it a little bit easier. Again, this is one that I really like, but I may not suggest using it the first time you play the game. Is that this basically makes the party bonuses additive versus, I think it's like a small percentage, or it might not even be additive at all in the vanilla game. So when you're playing, if you've got, you know, this is for insight, and you're talking with someone who's being a little devious or maybe is being a little opaque, whatever, the insight might pop up if your insight ability is high enough. So if you have 10 for your, or 6 for yourself, and then you've got 10 for the party, that means you will have 16, as opposed to going for, well, this person's got 6, this person's got 1, this one's got 5. And so 6 may be, you know, the highest that you could possibly get, but that isn't enough to meet the threshold for that particular choice and whatever it is that you're doing. This makes it party additive, so you'll have a better chance. It doesn't mean you'll be successful. There's like a old school roll the die when it comes to these things, depending on what that number is, but it'll basically help you out. So maybe not do this on your first playthrough, but definitely on the second and going forward. Glove bus plus extra items. What is that? Oh shit, I forgot all about this. So all gloves that give skill points have been buffed to the point where you would actually want to use them. This is something I think I've been using. Yeah. No, this is, I downloaded November 3rd. I wonder if I re-downloaded it because I feel like I had it right away. So attribute increasing gloves that are harder to obtain have slightly better stats. All yeah. So basically, what this does is that it takes some of the items that are, I don't know, less worth keeping. You know, when you find like a really cool legendary item in a game and then you get to a certain level and it just becomes useless. That's what this mod basically fix with the arm items and the hand items. And so I couldn't actually tell you because I've been playing with it, I think since my first playthrough, that I didn't really know. I completely forgot about it. Yeah, all these ones have like weird, like I downloaded these way before this time, so I'm not really sure why these dates look off. No proficiency drawbacks. This is something again, I like it now, but I would not play the game initially with this. So this is kind of the balancing that I was talking about, the old school RPG where you have a proficiency in a weapon, and that weapon proficiency has a plus and a minus attached to it. And even if you get the weapon proficiency, you have the choice of whether or not you are going to turn it on or turn it off. And what this does is this encourages you to turn it on because it removes the drawbacks of the weapon proficiencies. And so again, not something I would suggest for your first playthrough, but definitely for the second and going forward. The other big one, this one is no suicidal meteor shower. If you like, meteor shower is, I think everyone who's played a mage in any sort of, you know, D&D like game knows that the wizard is going to have some sort of meteor shower ability. And for whatever reason, this one did a lot of damage to the caster if you were inside of it, which is weird. And this one specifically has to do with the scroll. And I'm not really sure the mechanics behind it or how it works and whatnot, but for whatever having this mod, it works exactly the way it would want it to. It has a really good range. It has a huge AoE effect. And again, combined with no friendly fire, it shouldn't do any damage to your companions. And more importantly, it shouldn't do any damage to you if you happen to be standing in it. Next one, no permadeath. So your characters, and this is the big Obsidian thing, right? You see, like almost every Obsidian game that I know of has permadeath for your characters, and I don't like that. And the way it works in Pillars of Eternity 2 is unique, where you basically, when you're in battle, if you character drops down to 0 health, they actually take an injury. And you can have 3 injuries, so basically bringing your health down to getting knocked out 3 times before you are permanently dead. And I'm talking like the companions that have quest lines or that are, you know, that you've come to love throughout the game, gone, just like Fallout New Vegas, right? And I'm not about that. I don't like that at all. I didn't like it with Dogmeat in Fallout 3, hated it in Fallout New Vegas. I'm just not a fan of permadeath. Now, no permadeath does not apply to your crewmates on your ship. So your boatswain, your cannoneers, your cooks, if you get into a storm and they're swept off the deck, bye bye birdie. Better submarine. So this is actually one that I haven't even gotten yet. So I just saw this because apparently you can get a submarine in the game. I still haven't found it after 150 hours in the game. I don't know how I've missed it. I have no idea how to get it, and I don't want to know. I want to figure it out kind of on my own. But this, apparently the submarine was kind of, you know, it wasn't as good as like the best ship that you can get. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a bummer, because again, it's one of those things that you're really looking forward to find. And then you get it and you're like, oh, well, this really is kind of worthless. And this fixes that. So a little bit of a spoiler there. Sorry, I probably should have said that. Grimoire of the Masters. This adds a single grimoire that the author basically thought were the most unique abilities from grimoires in the game and put it into a single one that you can pop on. Now, I don't actually agree with this. I downloaded this mod and I was like, eh, I mean, I can see where they're coming from, and it's a good mod, but I don't think it's necessary. I really like swapping out the grimoires on my magic characters. I think it's such a unique element to the game that I'm like, I don't feel like this negates it at all. Like, don't get me wrong, you could probably download it, but I mean, all the spells and abilities in this mod are already in the game. They're just spread out over different grimoires. They're not all going to be in one, and that's what this mod does. And I'm like, it's okay. I mean, I can see why people use it, but it's not a necessity. Faster casting. This is one that is somewhat contentious in the community that I've seen. I think it's an absolute necessity because this game was initially designed to not be a turn-based game, but it does have the cooldown elements of a turn-based game in a live action fight. And I know that may sound kind of weird. It's super fucking cool, and I absolutely love it. But the cast times for some of these abilities is unbelievably ridiculous. And this is where the no friendly fire really comes into play, because if you have the AI, you know, you're using AI in your companions and they're not just like standing still behind you, the fight is dynamic. They are going to move. And if you put down a spell that takes 4 seconds to go off, I guarantee you by the time it goes off, someone, maybe you, is going to be standing in the middle of that AoE and is going to get crushed. So the faster casting with the no friendly fire is an absolute must in the game. The next one, and this is a little spoiler, so I'm not going to go too into it. Immortal Kali? Like as in Temple of Doom, I wonder? I don't even know how they pronounce it in the game, even though I've saved them like 4 times. So basically there is a fight where you are looking to save this person, and it is really, really hard to save him because along with all the enemies that come and attack you, he attacks you as well. And so you don't fail the quest if he dies, but I was like, I didn't download this initially. I wish I had, because it kind of sucks that if you can't save him, it's super, super hard to save him if you don't have this mod. It really is. And it's one of those where I'm like, I'd like to see a nice, you know, I like a happy ending sometimes to my story, especially when it comes to like side quests. So, yeah, I suggest that. Swift Strike Glove Accessory. This is not necessary. This is a mod that I downloaded and tried. It's cool, but I'm like, you don't really need it. Multi-class lock icon be gone. This is in use in conjunction with basically another mod that I didn't see on here yet. Oh no, there it is right there. So here's the biggest difference, and you're going to know this right away when you start the game up, is that you can play a single class character or you can play a multi-class character. Now, the way Obsidian set this up, and I do see why they did this. If you play a multi-class or a single class character, there are 9 levels of abilities. You get access to all 9 in a single class character. If you go to multi-class, right? If you want to be a wizard and a chanter, or a wizard and a fighter, you have access up to level 7 of both, but level 8 and 9 is locked for both of them. And in the game, it specifically states that for new players, don't use multi-class. And I agree with this. I think the best thing you can do is play as a single class character, and all of your companions, even though they have ability to be multi-class, I would suggest your core group be single class, and then take a couple of off characters that maybe you don't like and play around with the multi-class aspect. Now, once you're done with your first playthrough, I promise you, you're going to want to play this game again. That is where I think it becomes even more fun. Once you get the mechanics down, once you get the timing, once you kind of understand the dynamics of how the fights and groups work, then go to multi-class. But I do suggest you remove that level cap, right? So you do have access to the level 8 and 9 abilities for both classes for a multi-class. And then what this mod does is that there's like a little lock icon under those. So when you play, you'll still see the lock icon if you download this mod, because technically the game still thinks it's locked. You'll still be able to access them, but this just makes that icon gone. That's basically it. So again, do not do this on your first playthrough. Wait till the second. Better Ghost Galleon. This is another ship that I have not found yet. Still haven't found it. Don't know where it is, but it's one of those things where, you know, you find it late game and people are like, I'm really kind of disappointed at how unimpressive this is long term. So I downloaded a mod to make it better. That's all I know about it. No artifact hunts. This is one that I downloaded and I'm really glad I did, but people who like, this is for a DLC where it's very involved. You can spend a good 30 hours on this single DLC and you can go off, and this promotes exploring throughout the map. I knew I was already going to do that pretty hardcore. And I knew that as I was doing that, if I didn't have this quest unlocked, I'd be pretty annoyed that I have to go back to those areas and, you know, go through empty dungeons to find this one item that will now trigger that didn't before. So that is why I downloaded this. If you agree with that ideology, I would definitely download this even for your first playthrough. But if you do like backtracking, go ahead and just don't even worry about it. The next thing is Lilith's equipment. So this is, this isn't, I was about to say something and I'm like, this is something different. Yes. So apparently, Lilith is a character from Pillars of Eternity 1. And this gives you basically some of her stuff uniquely upgraded, and it gives it to you right away at the beginning of the game. You start off with this. I actually love this. I don't know who Lilith is. I bought Pillars of Eternity 1. I tried playing it. I couldn't get through it. I had to get a refund from Steam, which I am very thankful they did. Just not a fan of it at all. But Lilith apparently is a hugely popular character, and this mod is really nice. It gives you some really cool items right off the bat. And then finally, the no attribute cap, where you basically can go as high as you want on the attributes. It's one of those things where I'm like, again, your first playthrough, don't worry about it. If you want to play around with difficulty and, you know, scaling, especially on the harder levels, you may want this for later, but that's pretty much it. And I feel like there's one that's not in here that I missed, and I can't think of it. But it may, because maybe it's in WeMod. So anyway, these are all the Nexus mods that I have downloaded. On top of that, I also use WeMod. Now, WeMod is a trainer injector that I've promoted before, and I absolutely love it. It has a free version and it has a pro version for which you pay, I think, $70 a year. That $70 may seem like a steep price, but it is so worth it. When you're looking for certain cheats in a game that there may not be a Nexus mod for or a console command for, this is why WeMod exists. Now in here, there's a lot of different things in here, but the big thing that I use it for is easy crafting. Again, this is something that I would probably suggest, I don't know, get the crafting down, kind of see with those other mods, you're going to have access to almost all the items you need. So this may be redundant, but for me, unlimited money, that's a huge one for me. These ones are specific to your ship. Now, there's no way I'm going to be able to encapsulate this with enough time, but basically the medical supplies, the repair supplies, and the ammunition are talking specifically about what you need for your ship and for your crew. So a huge element to Obsidian games tends to be based in reality. And when you're crewing a ship, as you sail, time passes and you need food, you need drink, you need medical supplies for your crew, you need repair supplies for after battle for your crew to fix it, and you need ammunition for your ship. Now, if you love micromanaging, you know, a whole platoon of things on top of your companions, right? This is like the companion aspect and the pirating ship, two different micromanaging aspects of the game. If you like that, go for it. Me, I'm like, I tried it vanilla and I was like, this is no, I can't do this. Like I'm gonna use these. Up here, these are really unnecessary. The fast attack speed is for your weapon attacks, not for any other attack. And I do think that this can make the game a little too easy. I had to use this on a couple of bosses that when you turn on the level scaling, there's something where they go into what I would call overdrive, where they get down to like 10% health and it becomes like a Ninja Gaiden game where they are just going to try to bend you over in every way. I had a fight going close to a 25 or 26-minute mark where I was like, this is so, like, this is ridiculous. And I'm like, it had to do something with the scaling, but I'm like, there is no way this boss can be this hard. And I tried fighting the boss, like, I think 3 or 4 times. And the only way I could beat them with level scaling on is by turning on this fast attack speed. And even then it added another 10 minutes to the fight. So they're pretty epic, but honestly, I wouldn't use this. I feel like it kind of messes with the game. But anyway, so now that we've gone over all that stuff, what are we sitting at a time? We're almost at an hour already, and I haven't even gotten to the game yet. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of this, not much. Now, this is oh, you know what? I probably should have loaded up this character. This is the one, we're going to go over like really, really basic stuff here. Actually, you know what? I take that back. This video is already going on 52 minutes. Let's separate these out so you don't have to go through searching for every little thing, you know, like every aspect that I talk about. So we'll keep the modding side to one video, and then I'll go over kind of the basics of these elements in another video. So thank you for watching. I hope this helped. And trust me, if you haven't played this game yet, I cannot suggest it enough. Now, I don't know if I think this is available on console, but if you can, please get it on PC. It runs better, it looks better, and again, you've got the modding aspect that just, oh, sploosh.